Good afternoon. I'm Muriel Bowser, Mayor of Washington, D.C. Today, we are in Petworth in beautiful Ward 4, and we are here to talk about public safety in our neighborhoods. I am joined by members of my public safety team and members of my administration, and we will be talking about what we are doing here in Petworth, but also conducting a public safety walk. I want to recognize the Ward 1 council member, the neighboring council member, Brianne Nadeau, who is here as well. We will have an opportunity to take a few questions, and then we can also chat along the walk. So with that, I want to begin by saying we were in Adams Morgan on Monday, similarly talking about additional multi-agency resources that would be deployed in the neighborhood. We talked specifically about the expansion of 2 multi-agency task forces. We also spoke in Adams Morgan about the nightlife task force and how that task force would be situationally deployed to Adams Morgan. We also briefed the community on our task force focus on violent crime, specifically on homicide reduction that we have deployed in 2 areas. Here in the 4th District and also on the Good Hope Road corridor. And last year, the Public Safety Task Force contributed to an 18% reduction in violent crime in 6D and an 8% reduction in violent crime in 7D. Still, we are all very concerned about any increases in violence, especially gun violence. In April, we will convene a public safety summit among all of our public safety partners to talk about all of the facts and all of the solutions and how we can work together to make the district safer and stronger. I expect in the next 30 days that we will be able to present to the council a new legislative package focused on making the district safer and stronger. We know that we will continue to work together, all stakeholders, each branch of government, the community, our schools, our faith leaders, to make sure that we have policies in place that hold people accountable. We're very concerned about the rise in homicides. We're concerned for the communities that are traumatized by that rise in violence. These are kids, adults, and we know that it's not just the people involved in the violent act, but it's also the people who hear gunshots in their neighborhoods. I'm joined today by the Director of the Office of Victim Services and Justice Grants, Director Jennifer Porter. And OVSJG has 2 programs among many that we continue to spread the word about. We ask, for example, in neighborhoods like Petworth, that every neighbor, business, and residential neighbor availed themselves of our security rebate program, which essentially pays for you to install a private security camera. And the chief and the police officers will be able to tell you how important security cameras are in solving crime. OVSJG also operates the Victims Hotline, which supports people in our community who have been victims of crime. And both of these programs are important for how we make our city safer. So with that, I want to continue to ask neighbors in Petworth, along Georgia Avenue, along Kennedy Street, to make sure that you're communicating with us, not just our police department, but our violence interrupters as well, so that we're stopping crime before it happens, but certainly deploying resources where we need them. When I drove up, I saw a lot of men and women in yellow vests, and those are the men and women of our police department, and I want to thank them for their service to the District of Columbia. So with that, I want to turn to Chief Conti, and then we'll take a few questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that. And I just wanted to say, I'm going to be very brief in terms of my remarks, but the mayor mentioned the work of our police officers. The officers that are lined up over there on the mountain bikes, they've been deployed to the Petworth community for at least the last month and a half, last 2 months. That is part of our community-focused patrol unit. They're police officers. They ride mountain bikes, rain, sleet, or snow, whether it's cold or hot. They're out here in this community connecting with community members all across the board, business leaders all across the board, and we appreciate them in the service that they bring to the citizens of the District of Columbia. But I want to invite everybody to just kind of take a look around real quick. Just take a quick look around. This is how you fight crime. Okay? This is how you fight crime. It's not just the police department. It's not just what the police department does. It's the whole of government. It's bringing all of our government resources together and community members. And we got a lot of community members that are represented here today. So I want to thank you for showing up. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for working with us here in the Metropolitan Police Department and the entire District of Columbia government to make this community as safe as it can possibly be. You know, when I hear about tragedies, and sometimes, unfortunately, in my role and position, I hear about tragedies all across our city every single day. I hear about tragedies all across this country every single day. But it's something different when it hit home. You know, when it happens in your neighborhood, when you know the person involved, when there's a stabbing in the library that's not far from here and our kids are present when that happens. There's something different about it when it hits home. So I'm going to say what I said the other day. I've been getting texts from people all around the country about this, but there was a big press conference that we held the other day, and they asked me a simple question: Chief, you know, what do we do and that kind of thing. The best way to keep our community safe are to make sure that we're keeping bad, violent people incarcerated. And that is the bottom line. I said what I meant, and I meant what the heck I said. That is how you keep communities safe. So we're going to continue to work to do just that. Your Metropolitan Police Department last year took over 3,000 illegal firearms off the streets of the District of Columbia last year. And as we look back, that has been an increase year after year after year. And as we are seeing these firearms, these illegal firearms that show up in our communities, there are no good intentions and nothing good comes from the use of these illegal firearms in our communities. So I am committed to it. The mayor is committed to it. Your government is committed to it. And I know that the citizens of the District of Columbia are committed to making communities all across our city safer. So, Madam Mayor, I know you're leading the walk, and I know that there'll be a few questions, but I want to thank everybody again for coming out today.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. I also wanted to recognize our Fire Chief, John Donnelly's here. Thank you, Chief. The Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Lindsay Apia. The Director of our Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, and our Gun Violence Prevention Director, Linda Harley Harper. He's been mentioned, but I'll mention again our Director of the Public Libraries, Rich Reyes Gavlin. And we are all extending our appreciation and our thoughts and concerns to our library staff and neighbors who were affected by violence at our Petworth Library earlier this week, I should say. And also, I want to acknowledge the ANC commissioners who are present. Where are ANCs? If you would raise your hand. Thank you to the commissioners who are volunteering in making sure that we're safe. So with that, I want to start with our press questions, and then I'm able to take a few community questions and take community questions as we walk. Mark.
Two questions on what you just announced. First, on the Public Safety Summit, can you tell us a little bit more about who will be invited to participate? Will you be inviting the USAO? Will you be inviting the Chief Judge to that?
Yeah, Mark, we're putting it together now, and my vision is that it will be like a all-day or a half-day event, and we're developing the tracks of information that we will discuss. But I expect that we will invite our federal and local partners that impact public safety.
And then if I could follow up on the legislation that you plan on submitting within the next 30 days, can you be specific? Will any of that legislation address the criminal code that is being debated at this minute?
It won't. We're looking, as I mentioned, about our public safety ecosystem and the system that makes us a great place for people who want to be involved in law enforcement to come work. Looks at how we are addressing our young people, or looks at incentives that we can provide. Like years ago when we did the first Safer Stronger, we advanced our private security camera program. So I've asked everybody involved in keeping people safe, and that's just not the public safety team. What ideas do you have that requires a change to the law? And if it makes sense to put it together in one package, then we'll advance it that way. And there's other pieces of legislation that others might advance. For example, Councilmember Trayon White last week introduced the bill to make sure we have police officers that are supporting our schools, and so that's one piece that's already moving. Councilmember Gray introduced a piece of legislation that focuses on force strength. So I expect that the Committee on Public Safety and the Judiciary will give these bills a hearing, and the Council will give them their due attention. Press, yes.
Hi, Adrienne DiPiazza with Fox 5. This is actually my neighborhood. When you walk around the neighborhood, there's strollers on almost every porch here, families taking this metro. If people are scared, even though this incident at the library was an isolated situation, what do you say to the people who are scared? And then another question to follow.
Well, I've been talking about that since we started, about how it will take all of us to address public safety in our city. And I know, of course, this neighborhood well. I represented it for almost 8 years. A lot of the improvements that you see in neighborhoods which have caused families like yours to move here, I led those initiatives, and I'm very proud of them. And I feel very strongly about making sure that communities are safe.
And then today there was a sentencing of a 15-year-old who shot a Washington Commanders player over the summer and killed another 15-year-old. He got 6 years because of juvenile sentencing rules. He'll be out at 21. Do you have a reaction to that?
I don't know all the details, so I won't comment on it. Anything else? Yes.
Mayor, the interim director of OUC filing a whistleblower lawsuit. Do you have any comment? That's Ms. Subito against the city. Do you have any comment on the lawsuit?
I look forward to that case.
Could you say are you satisfied with what's going on in the operations there, or do you think at OUC does it require further review?
We are always reviewing our operations to make sure that the residents of the district are getting the best service possible. I will say that I'm very proud of our team who has undergone some leadership changes, and not all of them pleasant ones. And not all of the conditions have been pleasant over a couple of years. They've also been our employees who showed up for work every single day in person during every day of COVID. And they're recruiting a lot of people to come work there because people left. So I want to say publicly to my employees at the Office of Unified Communications, we appreciate you. We're going to be with you to make sure that you have all the resources that you need, and keep working hard, because we're counting on you. The police and the fire department, they can't get to you without OUC. All right, so when we see the responses, we know that OUC is getting the first call.
Any comment on the merit of the lawsuit, the merits of the lawsuit?
I believe the lawsuit is without merit.
Mayor, the U.S. Senate is taking up the D.C. Code revision bill. I don't know if they voted yet, but they're about to vote. What is your thought about the Senate probably voting down that legislation?
I think you know, Tom, that I don't think that the Congress should ever interfere in our local governance. The fact that they can is because we live under limited home rule. What that means is our legislative process doesn't start and end with us. It always goes to the Congress and the White House. And the only way that will ever change is when D.C. becomes the 51st state. So I am not happy that the Congress is intervening in our laws. I am not happy about this discussion at all. And I hope that, and it was my fervent hope that my concerns with the crime bill would have been addressed locally. But what we should all be prepared to do is to stop talking about a dead bill and get to work to get it right.
All right.
Yeah.
Mayor Rafael with WSA9. Last time we spoke, it was about WMATA's police and MPD working together. Can you give us an update on how we're gauging the success of that program?
Well, I think it just started, but I'm happy to have the chief talk to you about it.
It's been going very well. It's a great question. A lot of positive feedback from riders of Metro who are seeing our officers that are out there. Again, I think it's important to note that these officers are being paid overtime by Metro, so we're not pulling police officers from communities like Petworth to put them down in the Metro. So I think that's very significant and important to point out to community members. But it's been going very well, and no issues with filling the detail or anything like that. It's very well.
The sergeant facing charges for the Antoine case?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a situation where we have a loss of life. Police officers are required to make split-second decisions, and then there's a process. And the U.S. Attorney's Office, we provided them with the information that we had. Further investigation was done, and where we are right now is that officer has been charged, and he will have his day in court to present his side of the case.
How big of Steve Thompson with the Washington Post. How big of a blow to D.C.'s hopes for statehood is the Democratic support for this bill?
Steve, the question was, well, how big a blow is this to statehood? And this is what I know. Going into this, we've been at this fight for decades, and we've been at the statehood fight with Republicans in control and with Democrats in control, with all three houses and with no houses. We've still been fighting for statehood. And so I think everybody was braced for what a Republican majority could mean for D.C. Certainly I was. Been thinking about it for a while, about what that could mean to DC governance. So just like with anything, I think we have to adjust our strategies for the environment that we face. And so we have to be very focused on how we advance the cause of statehood, just like we did in the last several years. When we thought Hillary Clinton might be president, we put a question on the ballot to have a contemporary vote and to be ready when the winds moved in our direction. When Trump became president, we stayed focused on getting more Senate and congressional support. In fact, more than we've ever had, including our entire delegation. So I take people at their word who weren't with us this time. That it doesn't impact their commitment to making sure that when we become and when all of the political winds are blowing in the right direction, that they're going to be there for us for statehood. So we will continue to grow this. Now, I also take a different view, and I've had this experience previously with dust-ups with Trump. What this also demonstrates, because it's been on TV all day for like 3 days. Some people don't know that DC residents aren't just like them. Some people in America don't realize that we actually don't have senators right now in the debate about DC. Some people don't realize that we're in the shadow of the Capitol, that we are attacked just like they are, that we go to war just like they do, but we don't have a vote. So what they have also served to do is educate Americans about the problem that we face, the indignity that we live with, and how we have to become the 51st state to change it. All right, any community questions? Yes.
Hi, my name is Jade, and I go to the field school.
Hi, Jade.
How can we make our schools, public spaces, and community centers safe from threats of violence?
Well, that's what we're here to talk about, Jade, who wants to make our public spaces safe. And part of what we are discussing and what we will continue to discuss with Rich and his team, with DC Public Schools, with the Parks and Recreation, is all of the things that they need to ensure that they have a safe environment. I saw somebody say out online, if we can't go to our library, where can we go? So if you're the mayor and somebody says that, it breaks you a little bit. So we want to make sure that all of our public spaces and our staff there have what they need. And whether it's Ms. Settles and her team at the Briggs LaSalle Rec Center, who had a very unfortunate experience, or whether it's the Petworth Library, these are folks, they aren't like the chief and his team with a badge and a gun. They just go and sit at a desk, or they go engage with kids, and they're engaging with kids and adults on computers. So we want to make sure they have what they need.
Hi, my name is Orlando, and I also go to the field school. And my question is, what steps will you take to build trust between the police and the communities they serve?
Well, that's a great question. What was your name, hon?
Orlando.
Orlando asks, how do we make sure we have trust between police and community? So, Deputy Mayor, Chief, if you want to address that.
Absolutely. One of the things that the many things that we do, a lot of people say they want to see police officers out in community. We're trying to make sure that we remove barriers and that we're able to have our police officers interact and engage with community members in non-confrontational ways. Not when we have to arrest somebody, but just an officer that's out here riding a bike on the beat, or an officer you happen to see in community, creating a space where there can be an interaction between police and community where it's non-confrontational. They sent me a video the other day of the police band playing at a school, and it was a gym full of kids and all of them singing along with the police band, the side-by-side band, which is a band that the police department had when I was a kid. So I think it's things like that that really build that partnership, that really builds true relationship. And one of the things that I will say that we're focused on as a pillar of MPD is impactful community engagement. And what that means is engagement where we're able to engage community in ways that's actually life-changing for people. And I'm not talking about sending people to jail necessarily. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being that protector, being that confidant, being that person, being that police officer who is able to engage with our community members in safe spaces and places like libraries, right? And we have to continue to do that. I would also invite you to follow us on our social media. You'll see a lot of police engagement on there all across this city. We have a footprint that's very large in terms of how we engage, and I invite you to check that out.
One other thing that we'll say is that we think it's important that our officers live and come from Washington, D.C. So we're working very hard to have programs like our cadets, right, that we want our young people to join, because we believe that some of the most invested people and some of the ways to build best relationship and trust is that our police officers actually be from here. And so we're really looking for officers right now, and we encourage people from D.C. to apply and to apply for the cadet program.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to come to the front so I can give you the mic?
Mayor, I heard it said by the police chief that part of the aim is keeping bad people in custody.
Correct.
What can we do to keep our kids from becoming bad people? How can we, and I say that in quotes, how can we invest in ways so that that's not the only option, that they're out here on these corners selling? We're all afraid in this neighborhood now. My elderly relatives won't take the bus to come and see me just 2 blocks up. I think we all as a community have a responsibility, and it's not just jail and custody, but it's opportunity. And I know I'm talking to someone who understands. Please say more.
Yes, ma'am. And so it is true that we invest in the spectrum of programs: prevention, opportunity, enforcement. But they all need each other. In order for prevention and opportunity to work, enforcement has to work. There have to be consequences. and we're lacking in consequences. We have a $20 billion budget for 700,000 people. We are the envy of the nation in the types of violence prevention programs that we offer and opportunity programs that we offer. I won't say to you that we're doing it all perfectly, because I don't believe that we are. There's room to grow, and it completely has my attention that the people who work for us to do violence prevention, they have to have the same set of expectations and accountability to us as the police do. And we're working on that. They're new, though, 5 years old, and so we continue to build those programs. We also continue to invest in what I call the gold standard of human services programs. Your council member, Nadeau, was very involved in our housing programs, income maintenance programs, and job opportunity programs. So we're going to continue to invest in. What I will commit to you in that space is in the areas and the programs that aren't working, and in a big sprawling government, there are some things that aren't working. We have to stop them and fix them and double down on the things that do work. We are a second chance city. So it is not my view that if you make a mistake, that's the end of it for you. But you have to have consequences if you carry a gun. You have to have consequences if you use a gun. You have to be consequences if you stick a gun in somebody's face who's carjacking you. There have to be consequences if you're throwing an old lady off a bus. There have to be consequences. So that's what I know I feel, the chief feels, the officers who are doing this work every single day feel as well. But there are kids that we want to get to, and they're adults. I don't want to put this all on the kids, because it's not all the kids. They're adults that we are engaging as well. And so please reach out to us. Director Harley Harper's team runs a program called Pathways. It's for justice-involved people. It provides both job training, but also critical behavioral health training. It provides subsidized employment, and we're going to keep cycling through those programs. For other young people, the young lady asked me, and Deputy Mayor Pia said, we want you to join our force, and we do. We're hiring, and we want to hire D.C. residents. We're even hiring them when they're in high school so that they can start a career like Chief Conte in the best police department in the world. And so that will continue to be our focus. So with that, I'm gonna stop this part of our questions. I'm gonna invite the ANC commissioners to come to the front, and we're gonna begin our walk. Thank you.